Hello everyone guys! In the last lesson, we created our first HTML page. That was just the beginning. In this lesson, we will continue, and I promise with each lesson it will get more and more interesting. Because in the first lesson, I included a lot of basics, and in this one, we will move forward and continue working on our page. In the last lesson, we created these kinds of blocks like a light theme and a dark theme. Before we start the next lesson, I want to share a bit of theory with you because it's very important. This is exactly what I struggled with during interviews for my first jobs, or rather when looking for my first job. Look, let's first go to CSS so you can recall it for your understanding. By the way, if anything, you can open everything. Let's first open everything in different tabs. For example, here is HTML. If we want to open CSS, in another tab, we right-click and select Open to Slide. Or the second method, if you don't have such a button on Windows, you click on tab splitting here and move the CSS style over. Like this, in two ways. Next, we need to launch our live preview. Ctrl-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P. So, what do we need to type for the preview? We need live preview, start server. Okay, that's it, live preview. We did it. Next, let's pay attention to our CSS style. Here we have a div with the class lightSim. What if we assign this element? Not a class, but an ID. In the previous lesson, I talked about the existence of ID. ID, light, and shadows in the room. Everything was consistent with the ID lightSim. And in this case, it leads us to conclude that it will work if I, for example, want to refer to the ID, we refer to it with a hash. All with C. I will go very quickly. I don't want to stop. You will understand this when you do it all yourself. Let's overwrite, for example, the background light to make it disappear completely. Black. Oh, I made a mistake here. The hash is not needed. You see, it overwrote. Do you know why? Because there is a concept known as CSS, specificity. What is it? Each CSS attribute has its own priority level. Let's go through this priority. The first one is inline styles, which have the highest priority. So if we had written here, what I told you in the last lesson, you know you can do it, but forget it like a bad dream and never use it. You see, this inline style, it overwrote everything, both AD and class. That is, inline style has the highest priority. It equals, in numerical terms, 1000. Next comes the ID, which equals 100. Then come classes and pseudo classes. I'll explain what pseudo classes are later as we go along. Pseudo classes and classes have a value of priority 10, inline style. The highest priority is 1000 ID, secondary priority, then it goes lower, 100. Class is 10. Pseudo elements, these elements, not pseudo elements, but elements, are 1. That is, if we refer directly to a div or an H1, it's 1. Remember, right, in terms of priority? I will probably copy it for you right now from this site directly here. By the way, to open comments in HTML markup, comments are your sort of, well, notes, you could say. Okay, in HTML they open like this, in CSS they open like this, slash, asterisk, asterisk, slash. Well, maybe it's better to copy this into CSS. That's all. Done. So let's remove it. Look, I'll remove the inline style. The ID will work. I'll remove the ID. The class will work. This is very important. I often catch people on this during interviews. So then let's move on. Let's remove this ID. Light theme. We don't need it. So, Let's now, accordingly, start writing our website, our content. Today we will add a very important element called an image. To add an image, you need to write such a tag, image. Okay, next is the src attribute. In the src attribute, the path to the image is specified. Images can be stored either on the server, or it can be a picture from Google, or in internal files. Let's better create a new folder. Such folders are usually called assets. And here, we need to move the image. Let's say our site will be dedicated to GTA 6. Here we have an image. If the image is deleted, it might look the same as when you copy a link to an image, it doesn't matter. Look. Next. Here we need to follow the path. Assets, you see, it's already highlighted. And GTA. Oh, look what we have here. But this is HTML. HTML is dumb. It doesn't understand anything. For this, we need to work with the image. And look, as we already mentioned, let's work correctly right away. Wrap the image in a block element div. Don't think about why it needs to be this way. Just remember that it does. That's all. I'm adding spaces for you so that usually in HTML all these tags collapse inward, meaning there are no spaces between them. But I'm doing it for you specifically so that your brain doesn't explode and you can at least see how it is separated. Next we need to, of course, name it with a class. Let's call it post, so it becomes post image. Block named. Look, here, I want to correct a mistake. It's not very correct. The use of classes. When I was writing a new lesson, I noticed. In the following lessons, if I notice that I made a mistake somewhere, I will correct it. But for now, believe me, it's not that important. You start to pay attention to such mistakes only when you have a lot of experience. For someone, it might not even seem like a mistake at all. You see the point. Okay, naturally, we need to replace it here in the CSS. I have, instead of a dash, an equals sign on the keyboard. There, now it's applied. Ah, look, something went wrong here. Dark. So, it's funny, you miss one character somewhere, then you'll spend hours looking for this mistake where you acted incorrectly. I wanted to curse, but I will try not to use optional language in the courses, because after all, these are educational materials for non-educational materials. I have other videos where I'm not shy about expressing myself, but we need to fix it. All this mess. Look, as now, there will be a very important part. We can refer to elements not only directly through the class as we address them. Imagine that we have here, just a second. We have many images here, but we need to refer specifically to the one inside the div, specifically to this one. Remember how to refer specifically to this one inside the div. For this, we write diva class and with a space we write img. This means that we are referring to the internal element of the div, specifically to the image element. Alright, we've got that sorted. So, now let's separately define the class div to assign properties to it. But I want, first of all, to set a height for the div. To what? Set the height it will be equal to. How much did I set there? 300 pixels. Was I playing around with that? Everyone wrote everything down. Look at the chaos that results. Look, I want to assign the div a property called overflow hidden, which is often used. Look, what this is? It means that everything that goes beyond this div is cut off. Because if you remove the div, everything stays in the same place. Look at the border. 2 pixels. Solid. Blue velvet. Look. You see, here's the div. It's just an image. It's so large that it kind of goes beyond its boundaries. So it's very important for us to specify this MAU overflow property hidden. Well, now the most interesting part, how do we make the tip aspect ratio, which is the ratio of the height to the width of the image? How do we make it display correctly here? For this we go to our image tag. So look, well, first of all we need to specify that the image should occupy 100% of the height. And if we specify 100% of the width, then look, this aspect ratio, the ratio of height to width, is not supported at all. For this, there is a magical property for images. It's called object fit cover. Look, thanks to object fit, no matter how we move it, the aspect ratio is maintained. Aspect ratio, width, and height. Now we have an image that behaves correctly. Let's do this now. You know what we'll do? I want all the blocks, all our blocks to have a border, radius of the border. I want for this block, I want for the light theme and dark theme for the image. There are two ways to do this. Either specify border. Radius, I'll show you how incorrectly. Or correctly, but not quite consistently. So let's set a border radius of 7 pixels. And you see we have a radius now. Well, to make it more maybe clear, let's set it to 10 so it's more visible. And you can specify it everywhere. Here, right? That's it. But I recommend, you know what to do? To make, for example, common styles for these elements. What does this mean? Look, we can refer to all elements again. We can refer to multiple classes at once. We can refer to this class once with a comma, then to this light him block, then to this one. Open the brackets and specify the border radius. Scott already highlights everything for you. Sometimes it's enough just to choose 10 pixels. You see everything with this kind of shortcut. We applied this style to all elements at once, and you can group them as you wish. That is to say, you can use this method with a comma to apply any style to multiple elements at once, simultaneously. Multi-tile class. Here I noted that this is for multi-class style application. What else would I like to change here? Change the text for starters, because this is GTA. GTA like news. By the way, this is what we are doing with the GTA site in the very first basic lessons. It somehow spontaneously came to me. Later we will move more towards Instagram, copying the design there, okay? Look, now I want to change the text. Here. GTA 6 News 2024. Next, what I want to do is add a title to each element. Before each element, light and dark theme. GTA 6 coming soon. Like the first news. Soon. In 2025, GTA 6 leaks 2024. Okay. I don't like that. Look now, I'll show you memory. I told you that there are H1, H2, H3. So, H1 is, for example, the title for the site, but I want to make these. I want to make only 2. As you can see, in Scott 2, the closing text also changes for me immediately. You all see, they are now smaller, and for them what I want to do is apply a different color to H2. Remember, I told you that black always looks terrible. It should be slightly lighter. Therefore, now for the black color, let's say we will lighten it a little. So I have a good color that I love. Color hash in hex, let's write it as 65, 55. Don't forget the semicolon. Here we have a little website like this. Look, what I want to show you next. Remember, I told you that you can use images from a URL. Well, that is remotely. This is specifically for us. We display the image inside the assets. It can be done differently. Let's say GTA Post 6. Let's take images. What interesting images do we have? A beautiful picture, I really like it. Look, right-click mouse. Every image has a URL, its address on the internet. Copy, image, address. Because if we open it, it means that this image is stored somewhere on a server, that is, on a remote computer. And we can access this image via the URL. If here, right? This again is the foundation. We access our local machine. This image is saved locally with us. This is the address of our local machine. And if we want to display a remote image, we simply specify it. Insert it here. Look at the beauty we've achieved. Just awesome. Well, it's impressive. And the border, I will now, this was for demonstration purposes. I still want to reduce it. Remember, too much rounded borders are not relevant today. Flat design is still relevant in modern design realities. I'll specify here, let's say 7 pixels, no more this silly perfectionism. I need to get rid of it. So 6 pixels. And we ended up with this. Here's the site. As you can see, it will be flexible for all devices. I'll show you later how to handle it separately. That is to manage the layout for devices with different widths. How to set styles separately for computers. How to handle it separately or for mobile devices. Because for now, it will be like this. If you expand it, it will look like this. Here. I will cover this in the next lessons, because in the next lesson, we will be making the header. Let's imagine, for now, that we are creating a mobile application that will open on mobile devices. So as not to get confused, I am giving you additional homework to study. Study CSS units, that is what exists, not just pixels. If you noticed, there are percentages, yes, which means that here, the image should cover 100%. There are both width and height, there are pixels, and we will cover this in independent CSS learning. SPECIFITY. The link I will definitely share and then share again. Be sure to study what properties an image has, as it has many properties. You see, this border padding is standard. How to center an image from the left to the right. I would rather leave all this in the header so that the last thing I wanted to share. This includes units like pixels, percentages, EM, and everything else for self learning. You can look at it in other languages. If needed, you can immediately translate the page here by clicking. But this isn't Chrome. In Chrome, you can just click Translate. And it will translate for you into any language. If you don't understand something from these materials that I'm sharing, we will cover it all anyway. I'm just giving this to you in advance so that everything else doesn't scare you later. I hope everything is clear so far. I tried to fit into this lesson as quickly and efficiently as possible. As I said, we will move quickly. So this was DC Pro Max with you. Inside the hacker base, be sure to subscribe to the private Telegram channel. It's free right now, even though it's private. Make sure to subscribe because you can communicate with me in real time there. Voice messages and everything else. It's purely gathered there. The base, the core. Thank you for watching. Naturally, I created a code sandbox for you. And I will attach it in the description. Everything is right here. You can open it via the link, but write everything yourself in S code.